Hi there. I do like pictures. I'm a very pictorial sort of person. Um, a picture paints 1,000 words, they say. To which I would add that a piece of music paints 1,000 pictures, which paints 1,000 words. So that's a lot of words that can be expressed either musically or pictorially. And in the past, as far as I understand it, I think it was the Rosicrucians that an alchemist used to convey or transmit their lore or their magic or their initiation or their spiritual attainment or wisdom through the medium of pictures and pictograms and hieroglyphs and pictograms mostly because hieroglyphs have a specific meaning, whereas pictograms are more up to the interpretation of the person. And and of course, then you've got all the sort of modernist symbolists as well in the artistic world doing their thing, expressing their subconscious. I suppose a pictogram, as far as in Western mystery schools is concerned, has an intentionality behind it. It has a particular message, which is put in a very simple way, and to go directly to the subconscious. So you might almost say that pictograms are Gnostic, in the sense that they bypass the intellect and go straight to the heart of the matter and straight to the heart of the perceiver. So I got here a sigil that would be used for emblems and for contemplation. And the idea of this symbol is, in its own humble way, it kind of sums up everything that I've been talking about on this channel for the past 20, 24 weeks. And, it's so you've got the sigil for contemplation, then you've got the sigil for visualization, which is a cut down version of the above. And there's a great deal to contemplate. The idea is that you contemplate different parts of this complex symbol, and you can either look at it as a whole, or, as I say, you can look at the component parts of this symbol and analyze each through contemplation. And so, the idea here, we got the two parallel worlds. We've got the spiritual world, we've got the material world, or the worlds of the demiurge on the bottom there, and the one world of the transcendental God, the transcendental realm on the top level here. And then you've got the progress of the soul, which goes from heaven, as it were, in quotation marks, down to the lower worlds and comes back up again. And it follows that trajectory. And it could even be that this represents the fall of man, man, the fallen angel, and his redemption back into the transcendental realm. And you here have the bindu, the point, and the circle, which represents spiritual unity, and the Holy Spirit, and the angels, and the other evangelic creatures and entities and beings descending and going back up again. And the fact that when they get to the lower realms, they can sometimes transform matter for a period of time. And that's represented by this circle here. There's plenty to actually contemplate. And in fact, I suppose from the contemplation, there's plenty here to recreate. So this emblem would in fact be sort of changing periodically as one's experience and one's contemplations changed. In fact, but as far as cutting it all down to one simple thing, I think really you get to the point where basically the circle represents the world of the demiurge, or worlds of the demiurge, and these are all hollow, as represented by this circle with nothing in it. And it's a circle because it represents the second law of thermodynamics, that energy just keeps flowing round and round and round through all the different forms. And then you have the progress of soul, this kind of ellipse here, going down and going back up again. It also represents the path of spiritual beings, of the ladders of Jacob, the angels that go down the ladder and up a ladder. And where this ellipse coincides with the circle, you get the interaction between spirit and matter, and the possibility of spiritual enlightenment, and spiritual attainment, and the spiritual path itself. So this kind of represent, and of course, the ellipse these two arms, as it were, reach into infinity. So all here is just infinity, and this is finiteness, scarcity, and I suppose but also here it's hollow because it represents fear, and fear, I've come to the conclusion, is the great devil. Not dispersion as Quran's on, but fear, which is even worse than dispersion. Well, it's the mother. It's the mother of all negativity, is fear. I could have put a big F in the middle here, but I wouldn't do that because it would concentrate your mind on fear, which I don't want you to do, obviously. But the main thing is that that this ellipse, that beings are here to help us, and they descend and they ascend. And there's also the idea of swing low, sweet chariot kind of thing. So that the path of redemption is also indicated here. And I thought that it's like two elements, just a circle and this pattern here, this ellipse. It looks a bit like the astrological symbol for Taurus, actually, which is quite interesting. Taurus, of course, is the Hierophant in tarot, which people into tarot could contemplate on. And of course, Taurus also represents to the Aeon of Taurus, which is a sort of Aeon of plenty, a sort of a golden era, symbolized, which is yet to be. It talks about being in the past, the golden era, but of course the golden era is also yet to be, when you transcend duality. So that's the symbol that I would choose to actually visualize. Although, curiously enough, I as a result of it, sort of contemplating this symbol, as a result of creating it, I actually visualized it upside down. So the sort of, that it was a bit like that. And that was a pretty powerful symbol as well. Often find actually that if you reverse a symbol, turn it upside down, that it represents its true power, interestingly enough. And it's just something I've noticed over the decades of study and use of symbols, is that very often the reverse symbol can actually be the power symbol that does something in your mind. And the symbol that you begin with, which is the sort of which is the upright symbol, is the symbol that you begin with. That's your initiation symbol. But the symbol that actually does stuff, as it were, has an effect on you psychologically or psychically or whatever, is actually the reverse of it. And then I usually find that there's a third symbol, which possibly has a third element in it. So I think in this case, the symbol goes back up to its original position again. It reverses the reverse, as it were. And then you probably get a third element, which in this case would be a little point there. And then you get your, excuse me, I'm getting lost here. And then you got your circle there. And that would be the sign that you had attained. So in Wicca, for example, you start off with a pentagram, and then you reverse the pentagram for the second degree, which represents your descent into the dark, into the shadow self, and then the pentagram is reversed when you become a third degree, and then you have a little extra thing, which is actually the two horns on top of the on top of the sort of on top of the arm that reaches up to spirit. But we're not talking about Wicca here. But it just seems to me over the years, you get this kind of like you begin with sort of innocent symbol to begin everything, and then you get in the sort of symbol that gets dark and dirty, down and dirty, and then the symbol is restored with a little additional element to it. You see. To represent the fact that after your journey, your spiritual journey, you have changed, and the world has changed around you, I suppose, really. So I suppose, depending on where you were in your sort of spiritual path, you would either visualize this symbol on the right here, the one in the middle, or the one on the left, once you'd reached the end of the path, I suppose. So this would be the symbol for via, or path, and this would be the symbol for terminus or end, and this would be the symbol for beginning, sort of alpha. So this would be the alpha symbol on the right here, and this would be the omega symbol on the left. So I just thought that might be quite an interesting point to bear in mind as well. And I suppose depending on basically on your initiatory path through a Western magical order, you would receive symbols of this order. You'd see the innocent symbol, then the reverse of it, and then finally the third symbol with the added element to it. That's just sort of an aside, really. So there's actually plenty to contemplate on when you look at this big symbol here. But in a way you don't contemplate, you sort of, you just look at this symbol, and it would feel something to you. And the idea, I think, is a lot of Western mystery schools give you a lot of symbols to contemplate on, to feel your way into, and to feel your way out of, and to feel your way and to bring back certain feelings, certain intuitions based on what you've seen. And then, of course, there's also a different way of seeing as well. Sometimes you can sort of see things in a different light. And you know that yourself. You go to an art gallery and you look at a famous painting. You can very often see different things in the painting according to your mood, according to your psychic profile on that particular day, for example. And so symbols are incredibly powerful, and you don't even have to know what they mean. Although I think, I agree with the Mahanirvana Tantra, you should know what they mean, what they meant originally. So you have a philosophy, you have your definitions, you have your theology, you have your cosmology, and then you represent it in a symbolic way, as I've done here. And then to push it further, you then feel your way into and out of the symbol in order to reach a Gnostic state of mind through the symbol. But the same with mantra. You should know what a mantra means before you chant it 108 times. And then after that, it acquires a separate, greater meaning, which you couldn't have reached if you just looked at it or understood it cognitively or intellectually or culturally or whatever. So I'm forever doodling strange symbols on my page here. I don't really know. They come from the subconscious, I suppose. But they also sort of teasingly draw the viewer into various aspects of Gnosis, aspects which I may not be aware of, let alone you, which is the way it is. So I hope that this is a brief introduction to what I'm going to call this video Gnosis and Symbology, because it's actually really about the fact that Gnosis can sometimes, I talk about the voice of the silence, and creating something from nothing, as it were. You just go into silence through introspection, and then you get this voice, you get information given to you. But I suppose sometimes it can be given to you via a symbol. which is based on a contemplation of information that you already know, and it just takes you further in that sense. So it's not for everybody, because some people are just not visually minded, and they don't learn visually either. We all learn in different ways. Some people, a lot of people, learn physically. So you'd have to go out and create this symbol using sand, for example, like the Buddhists do with their sand yantras, sand mandalas. So you'd create this in sand with different coloured sand, for example. And then, of course, as the Buddhists do, you obviously at the end you just destroy it all, because to represent the impermanence of all things in the worlds of the demiurge, which is also an important point. So sometimes the destruction of a symbol is very important to represent the fact that nothing is permanent in this veil of sorrows, veil of tears, which is certainly true. Nothing stays the same. And that's, of course, why we fear, because we don't want to change, obviously. So it's really, the symbols also can be used in times of adversity, when you want to focus not on your fear or your anger or your frustration or your avarice or whatever. You want to focus on the spiritual instead, which is a good thing to do as well. So yes, that's my take on gnosis and symbology.